Hello, folks. Thank you for stopping by. You know I'm Ozzy, and we're on the call. We're also discussing hot issues. This is one of the episodes that discusses some hot issues. And on this episode, I'm shining light on Stacey Gray. And this is where we're going to be talking about valleys and mountains, right? So just a little bit on Stacey. Stacey Gray left her home in Indiana with family in Indiana for New York City to pursue a degree in nursing. And after a brief stint in healthcare, her creative side won out. She earned a spot on the world-famous Apollo stage as an Apollo model. And to make ends meet, she took a job at a beauty supply store in Harlem's bustling 125th. The access to hair weaves inspired her to take the initiative to become a self-taught extension specialist, became a local 798 union member, and an award-winning hairstylist, makeup artist, and male groomer. We're going to talk about the male groomer. Stacey is considered a mastermind behind countless creations with over 3 decades of experience in the beauty industry. Stacey's determination and creativity propelled her career, working with a clientele that includes Beyonce, Alicia Keys. These are just some folks. Mariah Carey, Erykah, Badu. Let me see that again before Erykah gets upset. Erykah, Badu, and Megan Thee Stallion, and more. She worked on countless commercials such as Tide, Fisher Nuts, Mercedes-Benz, Oral-B, Adidas, Essence, and TV shows such as Empire, Saturday Night Live, and music video sets. Stacey, or Ms. Gray, has worked with top photographers and publications such as InStyle, Vogue, Interview Magazine, Rolling Stone, and Essence, reality TV, and feature films. So you can check her out on her IMDb page, because from 2005, Miss Stacey has been laying down a body of work, folks, okay? More than just about 30 credits for film, TV specials as key hair department head, key makeup assistant, and check her out on her website, stacygray.com. Also, on IG, at I am Stacey Gray. She's a committed volunteer offering her services to those in need, paying it forward. She lives by this phrase, living her eulogy backward, and we'll talk about that soon. She also owns S. Gray Unlimited, which has to do with agency and staffing within the beauty industry. Stacey, with all of that, Stacey is a survivor of domestic abuse and homelessness within all that she's been able to accomplish. So Stacey Gray, I am just so happy to be able to sit with you, and I'm going to talk a little bit about your beauty industry, the industry or the career that you love. What inspired you to pursue a career in hairstyling and makeup? Because you left Indiana and you started doing nursing, right?
Yes. So, I left Indiana. I went to college in Connecticut. Okay. High school, my last year of high school and college in Connecticut. Yeah. My mother was a nurse, and I didn't know what I was going to do. When I got out of high school, my mother got me into a program that was at her employer, where we'll train you to be an LPN in a year. Right. You come and work for us. Oh. And it worked out. It was beautiful, because the part of me that loves to care and support and help people was actually satisfied for a moment in time. I went into geriatrics, not really realizing that a lot of the times you're not saving lives, you are sustaining a quality of life. And I was very young, and it was kind of heavy for me. And in that, I got laid off my nursing job. But one thing that I used to do all the time that the families loved, I would get my residents up. The women, I would dress them to the nines. The men, I would shave them. And my residents always looked immaculate. It was like, I guess that was a point where I realized what I do. I like making people feel good by making them look good. Right. And we also have a few other hairstylists. My grandmother raised me, and I had my aunt who really was responsible for me. And she was like the number one beautician in the town that we lived in Indiana. Everybody knew Bridget Gray. She was the hairstylist to go to, and I was always at her hip. So I guess I was learning and watching and not really knowing.
Right.
But then, so when I got laid off my nursing job, as you mentioned, I started coming to New York. I found a job I got a job at the Apollo modeling, and I just would come back and forth to New York every Wednesday and Monday. And I said, I need to find a job here. And there was a beauty supply store directly across the street from the Apollo where I would go get my little lipsticks and my little lip glosses. And, made a relationship with the owner. And how you doing? His family. And they put me in charge of selling the hair and stuff in the back of the beauty supply store. So that's how it kind of found me. One day I was in there and a gentleman came in by the name of Christopher Lockhart, and we were talking, I use this and I like this product, but I had no formal training. So it's just what I tried on my own. And if you put the conditioner on and put it, these little subculture ways of getting my results. And he was thoroughly impressed, and he pulled me to the side and he's like, you're super talented. You should come work for me. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm a hairstylist, and you should come and assist me. And I'm like, sure. What does an assistant do? And he said, come and I'll show you. And I worked with him like 3 or 4 times. I'm working, I think it was like Essence magazines and things like that, assisting him. He was really a big deal. And one day he pulled me to the side and he's like, Stace, you're making $300 a day. I'm making $4,000 a day. You should maybe go to beauty school. And I said, you should maybe talk less. And I went and I signed up for beauty school. I think he told me that on a Friday. I signed up for beauty school on Monday, knowing that I wanted to work in entertainment. And that's how that worked.
So he was your mentor.
He was my mentor.
What has been the most memorable experience working with a celebrity client? Because you've worked with a number of them. And not small ones either, A's.
But there were a few that really had me I got to style Angela Davis.
Ooh.
I did that afro.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was big. I worked on the Trayvon Martin film. So something shifted in me. I started out in music, but something shifted in me in maybe the last 8 to 10 years where I just wanted to do legacy pieces. I want to do stuff that I can really, especially once I have my daughter. I did all the music and the dancing and I do it occasionally, but I wanted to do things that I can really be proud of. And
so when you say music, you're talking about music videos or
music videos. So I started out on that same block on 125th Street when I graduated beauty school. I went to go work in a barbershop that had a salon in the back, and they had a celebrity barber. And he asked me, he's like, well, Stacey, I'm doing something tomorrow. Do you think you can help me? Because I did makeup at the time too. And that day that I went to help him, it was Drew Hill's first album cover. And so my very first group, the week out of beauty school, was Drew Hill. And it just kind of, it blossomed from there. I don't want to make a long story longer. I was at the Apollo working, and it was a woman sitting behind me. My personality is what it is. So I'm high-fiving her. We're booing people off the stage. Get out of here. Booing and having a great time. And then the story, the barber asked me to come and help him do hair and makeup the next day. Me and the lady said bye at the Apollo. Nice to meet you. That week, within that week, he asked me to help him with the album cover. And she was there. She was the head of the label that Drew Hill was on. And she was like, I didn't know you did this. And I was like, I really didn't know I did either. And that week she took me on tour with Drew Hill, Ronald Isley. It's been a really serendipitous, ordered procession in my life. I can't. We have our, like I said, our peaks and our valleys, but when I tell you, the universe really just took the reign, and I'm like, let's go. And I didn't question it.
What has been the biggest challenge for you in that profession, in that professional life?
Honestly, is that I never assisted anyone. I only assisted Christopher, and then the week I graduated from beauty school, it just grabbed me in. So
Right.
it was a learn as I go basis.
Right.
So initially I didn't get paid what I should have gotten paid
Right.
because I had no one to say, hairstylist is not going to tell another hairstylist,
Right.
this is what my rate
Right.
is and this is what I'm getting.
Right.
So I had to learn, there were just things that should have been taken care of that because I didn't ask, they're not going to offer it. And so that would be my one regret, that I didn't really take the time to assist someone and learn the business of the business.
So would you say that is one of the biggest industries, biggest challenges in the beauty industry, with sharing of information, or if not, especially within the Black community, if not, what is the biggest challenge?
What I've been called the hairstylist because I've learned that I never went into the industry wanting celebrities to be mine.
Right.
So if you're a hairstylist and you called me and you were like, Stacey, I need you to help me because I'm double booked, or can you do this person for me? You don't have to worry about me coming and trying to take your client.
Right.
I'm going to go in there, I'm going to do my job.
Right.
And there have been times so I'm like, yo, I've gotten that call. Stacey, we want you to come back. They liked you. I'm going to call you.
Right.
Your people are calling me. I'm going to tell them that I'm busy, but I just want to know, do you have a problem?
Right.
If I continue, or how does this work?
Right.
And it's built up a reputation for me where I can be trusted. But the biggest problem is people don't have a level of, some people don't have a level of loyalty or respect or just understanding, like,
boundaries.
Exactly. We don't own, but there still should be something said for, you put me in a position, and I'm not going to violate that position.
Correct.
And so this new generation is very much
get what they can get and how they can get it.
It's kind of crazy.
What are you most proud of in your career life?
Well, right now, what just really happened is I took 10, 11 years off when my children were born.
Right.
And I went back into a salon. And I didn't take the time off. I could not do the industry work because the 12 to 16 hour days. Mm-hmm. My children have never seen a babysitter. Mm-hmm. Just as I don't know if I mentioned to you before, a lot of my trauma happened at the hands of people who were supposed to be taking care of me. So I have no family here in New York. Right. So my children have never seen a babysitter. So to answer your question, what I'm the most proud of right now is maybe in the last 4 or 6 years, I've transitioned back into the industry, and it's like I never left. I never left. That said,
what is your biggest pet peeve? You get on set, or you're working with people or clients, or what is your biggest pet peeve?
I've been very fortunate now that when people call me, they call my team. So they want me to pretty much kind of creative direct instead of just hair. And one of my biggest pet peeves is if I bring you onto my team, I'm a very solution oriented person. Mm-hmm. So don't come to me with a problem if you can't come to me with 3 solutions.
Right.
And I appreciate you letting me know the problem, but don't just say, well, this is what's going on.
Right.
And look at me. I'm like, give me some solutions, Right. I heard Steve Jobs once say, I hire people to tell me what to do, not to tell them what to do. And that hit me in a way like, we're all here as professionals,
right.
So right. That's my biggest pet peeve. Don't come with problems if you're not coming with solutions.
I love that. I love that. So, Stacey, being a survivor of domestic abuse and homelessness, in the midst of this wonderful world that you were living in, experiencing, working within, first question I have for you is, what kind of abuse did you suffer in the relationship? When and why did it begin?
So, to be honest, I'm going to be very careful with the word abuse, mm-hmm. because there's a lot of frustration. I'm going to have to be honest and say there have been times where So I don't know if if I expressed to you, I was living in my partner's family owned the building that I lived in. So I was totally surrounded by his family, and so in a but I paid more rent than anybody in the building, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I look at where you were and what you were doing.
So yes, which I didn't understand, because if we're family and your grandchildren are here, this rent is so high. My son was in my womb with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. So I wasn't able to work. I depleted all my savings, and I was in this space, frustrated. But all I had was my space. I'm paying the bills here. This is my space. So I think I'm giving you all this backstory to say there will be times where my children's father had asked me, you should move in with me. And in my level of independence, I can't move in. I'll pay my rent on my floor, and he lived on the 3rd floor. Just because we're not married, I didn't want to move in with him. But he felt like he had access to my space. And so he would come into my space without my permission. It would kind of drive me crazy. I would lash out at him. And it would become a back and forth in that. So I don't want to paint him as this. He is who he is, and he was who he was. But I would lash out at him, and we would get into altercations. You can't be in my space without my permission, or...
In terms of the altercations, would it be an altercation that led to
yes, we would
physical...
Yes. Restraining me, or holding my daughter, who was a child, and not giving her back to me. Just kind of psychological manipulation, as well as
physical.
Yes, and psychological warfare too, because like I said, I'm not in my space. I have nowhere to go.
Right.
And it was me and him. A lot of my friendships were no longer there. I didn't realize what was happening as it was happening. And what I will do is take responsibility, because before I met him, I would pray, I would see stuff on TV. I'm like, I've never loved anyone more than I love myself. I've never loved anyone more than the things that you would see. And it was stupid. Oh, girl, I just love him. I can't leave him. I never understood that. All my friends knew Mary J. Blige. I'm like, that's too much pain for me. I come from a strong line of women. We out. You acting up, we out. It's not working. But not knowing the power of my prayer, not knowing the power of my ability to manifest, I manifested in a situation where I thought his needs, his wants, his desires, everything was more important than me. And it turned into what it turned into. And then when both of my children came, I'm like, well, this is not it. I had more before I got with you. You met me coming off the boat with Puff. You came to visit me at the VMAs in Miami. You met me, I'm doing 106 and Park top 10 videos, with 5 of the videos being the music videos that I did. I'm doing the host of the show. And so you met me, I was already established. But there was a part of me that had to submit and be humble so he can feel like the man. And then something clicked in me, this man he can never hold you. He couldn't hold you where you are, let alone where you're going. With the vision for your life. And it became us lashing out. And his father, who owned the building, because police would be called, it would be blood, it would be whatever. My children's grandfather evicted us out of the house because his son already had a record, and me calling the police, it was
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Gotcha. At one point, you were diagnosed with cervical dysplasia.
Yes.
Told you weren't able to have children.
Never.
Was that before before the children came, or?
So my children's father had 5 kids, 4 kids, 1 on the way when we met. And the mistake I made is we're born on the same day. I was young. I wasn't that young, but I was young. And I thought, well, if we're born on the same day, how different can we be?
Yeah.
We have the exact same birthday, but totally different. Come to find out. And so him having children and young children, it wasn't a problem to me. It gave me an opportunity to be the mother that I was told I would never be able to be. Right. And so in that, and the way that I took, me and his other children's mother are close friends to this day because of how I took care of their children while he and I were together. And even when me and my children became homeless, 2 of his children's mother were like, well, you can come live with us. They offered me, refuge with them,
But you hear what you just said? 2 of his mother's children. Okay. So, milady, have you ever confronted your ex about the abuse or the relationship or the confrontations?
I don't think I've ever really let him live it down. I've mastered the forgiveness, but I have not mastered the forget part. So it's very rare that it doesn't still come up at times, because the part of me that really thought that this was the love of my life and how could you handle me that way, well, it still kind of resonates at times. But in maturity and wisdom, I know that you got to give, like you see all my beautiful plants, you got to give people the room to grow as well. And so...
And also the children are involved.
Exactly. And I didn't have my father in my life growing up, so I would never... Who he was to me as a man is not who he is to his children as a father. And that was really a huge part of how I even fell in love with him, the type of father that he wanted to be to his children before my children were even born,
What were the circumstances around becoming homeless? With now 2 children, a baby, 8 months old.
I touched on my son having, I was on bed rest during the 6th through 9th month of my pregnancy. And I wasn't able to work. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I worked all the way through. She was on sets with me as an infant. But with my son, it was a much more difficult pregnancy, and the diagnosis that I was given before my daughter, part of that took place, and so I depleted all of my savings, just trying to live and maintain, and I didn't really know anything about the system or getting on the system, and we were fighting. He had already, even before my son was born, he had already moved on with another woman. I was in the building. He had his other relationship, but still wanted to have access to me. And I was like, nah. And so the arguing, the fighting, the cop calling, other things, and the children's grandfather decided it was time to evict me. And so he evicted in 8 months. He evicted me and my children. Through the courts evicting us, I just packed up as much as I could and put everything into storage. And a dear friend of mine allowed me and my children to stay on her couch. She had like a 2-bedroom. She had just had a baby. And she had also had another friend there who was visiting. And so there were like bed bugs had came because she was traveling the country. And I was like, we can't do this. Like, we can't do this. And so we ended up going to the Bronx. It's a whole intake that they have to get into the shelter system. And we went and we spent maybe 2 or 3 days there It's just a building, an open space. And me and my children, because there's a whole process to get in, and they can actually deny you, which I did not know. And in the middle of the night, they said, "You've been approved." They put us on a bus, and they took me to some area in Brooklyn that I had never been to before, and just put us in an apartment. It was dark, and I didn't know the space. I didn't know where I was. And that's where we were for a while.
How did you maintain your mental and emotional well-being while you're going through all of that and into homelessness and not knowing where you're going and how your children are there? You know,
my babies, I said, they're not gonna feel this. They're not gonna feel this. So I gave it a name. I called it our temporary house. So we spoke that over our lives the whole time we were there. "Mommy, are we going to the temporary house? Mommy, are you at the, it was just called the temporary house. And it happened in November. So it was holiday time. I ended up spending the holidays with their siblings at the house. And then, in November it's dark, it's cold, you didn't really venture out much. Something happened. I don't know. I got to be the women in the building, the women security guards. Once they found out I could do hair, I just figured out ways to make my kids not feel it and really focusing on them not feeling it. So like Christmas came around and we couldn't have Christmas trees or we couldn't have Christmas decorations in our apartments, but there was a big Christmas tree in the lobby. So I asked the security guard, "Can I put the presents under the tree and walk the kids down and let them get their gifts and bring them upstairs?" And she was like, "Sure, don't tell anybody else." And so, they had my son had his first Christmas in a homeless shelter, but he got a bike, he got a basketball. And I was like, "Yo, Santa left your presents downstairs," and just figured out ways to make sure that they never felt it. Like they could never feel it.
so you're covering all of that, but mentally you felt strong at the time?
I think there was something that clicked in me, and I don't know if it's healthy or not, and I would not suggest it for anyone else. I just didn't allow myself to is one thing that God gave us is the gift of free will and the gift of perspective. So how are you going to look at this? I'm going to always look for the silver lining in every situation. My cup is always half full, no matter what I'm dealing with. So in the gift of perspective, I woke up one day, I'm like, wait a minute. And that's why it's kind of difficult for me to talk about my homeless situation, because I looked around, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I asked the universe to get me out of this situation. And it's almost like the universe said, all right, strap up, we getting up out of here, and it may be uncomfortable, but I looked around, I'm like, you in a 4-bedroom apartment that I took the living room and one of the bedrooms and made it one big bedroom. My kids always had their own room in the other apartment. We slept together every night. We ate together every day. It created a connection. I took my kids to school. We walked hand in hand every day. I just drew them closer to me because I didn't want anything to touch them. And so for perspective's sake, I looked up and I'm like, okay, you in a 4-bedroom apartment. Highland Park is right here. It's one of the second biggest parks. Take my kids to the park every day. I never had received food stamps before. I got food. We eating at Whole Foods. We gourmet, organic, so it was an interesting time, but I just looked for the silver lining in everything. Gave me a Metro card. My transportation was covered. I went to work, saved my money, and when it was time to move, I told my landlord, here, I know what's on my credit report, but what's up with this 6 months rent up front? And they were like, come on in, it was, so perspective.
What steps did you take to overcome the homelessness?
I never called myself homeless. We were just kind of temporarily displaced, and we were in our temporary house. And
strong mentally strong. Why didn't you reach out to your personal professional community? Because they were there. You were doing work for some huge names. You never reached out.
embarrassed. Just, I guess, not really proud of my decisions at the time, but not really knowing that it was ordained that way. Like, you waited to over 35, 36 to have children, but then you go have children with someone who already has 5 children, who couldn't make it work with 3 of the women before you, and you just kind of like, I just knew that I was going to be all right eventually, and I'm not one for asking. I'm the lender, not the borrower. You know, I'm the, but also realizing too, like, you deprive people of the gift of you. I learned that too, like, you're depriving people because it feels good to you to be able to help and be of service to people that you love. Why would you deprive? But I got that later on in life. Right. But then it was I'm Stacey Gray. Like, I'm getting off planes and boats, and I have cars. Mm-hmm. You know, I was, when I met my children's father, I was living in a triplex, mm-hmm. not a duplex. I had, you know, mm-hmm. and so it was just maybe ego, vanity, and just, I don't know. I knew I was going to be all right too. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine even came to me and suggested, Stacey, we just ask 10 people for $1,000. They will give it to you. And I was like, no, I'm going to be all right.
We women are like that. What advice do you have for other women who have experienced abuse and homelessness and want to build a successful career?
Your inner dialogue is very important. And if you can catch the things that you're saying to yourself, that's real work to catch and shift and change your inner dialogue. Like I said, I never said I was homeless. I just said I was displaced, and we're gonna be in our home in a minute. And honestly, I stayed in that apartment that we moved, that I'm from homelessness, for the next 10 years. You know, so I was able to keep my kids in a neighborhood where they knew everybody, and I was the president of the block association, and, you know, and things of that nature. So, but what I would like to offer them is, you know, perspective. Like, just pay attention to what you're saying to yourself, because we're powerful. Our words are powerful. Our inner dialogue is extremely powerful. And I always say you have a 3-second window to catch a negative thought. You have a 3-second window to say, nope, that's not it. I'm back. No. And I still to this day have to catch myself, because I'm not always kind. Girl, you're so dumb. Why would you do that dumb mess? Mm-hmm. Stop that, Stacey. Mm-hmm. You're not dumb. You did something, you're going to be all right. Mm-hmm. But if I can offer that first and foremost, check who you say you are. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Why now are you ready to reveal?
There's a huge shift that's happening in my career as well. I'm being introduced into different rooms. People are asking me about who I am and what has made me, what has made me. It's interesting because, like I said earlier, I never said that I was homeless. Mm-hmm. So I never talked about it, because I never looked at it as like, but as I sit back on it, it really was a interesting time. And because I chose to keep it positive, it doesn't mean that there wasn't many nights that I cried. It doesn't mean that there were many scary situations, walking in neighborhoods and being in neighborhoods that I've never been, other people having access to my living space, You know, when you're in a shelter, people can come in and out of your place.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they get to do these checks or get to do these, we need to check and see whatever. They can come in when you're not there. And at one point, I think I was going through it and my place was a mess. They called ACS on me. And I had to ask them, I said, y'all gonna take my, I'm new here, homeless, holding it together, and you saw maybe some dishes in the sink, or it wasn't like messy all over, but it was a mess. I was just trying to go to work, keep my kids. I'm like, I have an ACS case now on top of being in the shelter. So thinking that these people are really here to serve you, and I'm not putting anybody down because, like I said, I had heat, food, hot water, a place to stay, but one thing I realize is none of us is exempt from life, right?
Takes but a minute for something to happen.
None of us are exempt from life. And I never was the why me. I always say I'm built different, so why not me? Why not me? I can handle this. It's just, I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
If you can get comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Right.
you know.
What do you advocate for?
Those could be always my babies, always people of color, always women of color, always the underdog, always the underdog. If you want to see me mad, if you want to see, I can really keep a calm head, but I don't like bullying or harassing. I'm always the champion of the underdog.
What has been instrumental in your healing from the abuse and displacement, let's call it that?
What has been my healing? People always put so much credit and stock in the big wins. It's the little wins, or I call them mini miracles. Everybody wants to see the burning bush or the parting of the sea, but giving myself pats on the back for the little things that I'm able to accomplish and the little hurdles that I'm able to get over. Not standing there and like basking in it, but like, that's another one you did. What's next? And I'm never not in awe of God's goodness. I'm never not in awe.
As a woman of deep faith, what is the spiritual practice that you do to keep yourself centered?
I talk to God often. Definitely talk to my ancestors often. I make sure I honor and give honor to what they laid before me and what they did before me to be able to walk the walk that I'm walking now. I also teach my children. I love giving my children the gift of honoring our ancestors and the Creator. Quick sidebar: I went on vacation. My aunt was here, and I was away. And she called me. She's like, the kids were on their way to school, and Emmanuel stopped Saleha before she left, and he blessed her before she walked out the house. He took your blessing oil. I blessed him every day. Say prayers over them every day. So that's a part of it, like making sure they're spiritually covered and protected, and not only physically protected. So,
what legacy do you hope to leave?
Oh, legacy. That's big. I love legacy. It's a big part of who I am.
Because again, we go back to that phrase, right?
Living your eulogy backwards.
Where did that come from? And talk about your legacy.
I had quite a few people pass away in a short amount of time. And one person I was actually kind of supporting and taking care of and just helping because they were in my neighborhood. We just became really good friends. And in the people that passed away, I realized that not everybody lived through their full gifts. They didn't actively participate in the gifts that God gave them. And they decide, just life. I got to pay these bills. Like I'm a great artist, but I gotta do this to make sure my lights are on. And so something shifted in me where I realized like the impact that I want to leave, I want more than just a headstone. I don't want just a headstone with my name on it. I want my children's children to benefit from what I'm doing. But not only that, I just want my people to know that we are extraordinary. We are excellent. We are magical. And they would be, I guess, the powers that be are kind of cutting us off from our gifts. And we are actively participating in being cut off from our gifts, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, things that really kind of steer you away from really actively participating in life, in a life that we've been given. So I would like for my legacy to be, I was a living reminder and a living example of fearlessness, follow through, pursuing your passion, remaining optimistic, and making these choices. Because I don't have any special gifts that all of us weren't given. We all have our gifts that God gave us, but the core of who I am, God gave us all that gift. Free will and perspective. We all have that. And so if my legacy would be just to remind you to like pursue your passion, protect your peace, and just proceed. PPP.
So Stacey, you just talked about and expounded on your legacy and the things you want to see and be remembered for, etc. And you always are the half cup filled mentality.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
But things have not been easy. So talk about that.
I think I just want to be clear that I'm hoping that I'm emphasizing choice. Like you have a choice on where you want to shift your perspective. But in reality, and in true reality, like it is not like always like a walk in the park. And I don't want to give the impression that the flowers always bloomed and the sun was always out and the lemonade was always sweet. Life be lifing, as the young folks say.
Yes.
Life be lifing. And there have been times where, honestly, yes, I have not been able to get out of bed. And I had a good friend say, come get up, get your behind up, and let me help you do A, B, C, and D. Or there have been times where, I'm just, why am I crying? Why are tears? Because I didn't allow myself to cry when I needed to. You see a commercial about a dog eating and you boo-hoo because it's displaced sadness.
Right.
Or misplaced sadness because I didn't allow myself the emotion at the time that the emotion needed to be expressed, if that makes sense. So when I needed to cry, maybe I didn't just take the time to cry. Crying does not mean I'm weak. Is also which is what I also had to tell myself often too, because there would be many times like, girl, get up. If you got time to cry, you got time to fix it. If you got time to cry, you got time to do something about it. And as I've matured, there comes a time like tears aren't necessarily weak. Tears can also be like, all right, let's go. You got things to do. Push. Push. That's what they tell you, when you're giving birth. Push. When you're giving birth to different parts of your life, giving birth to different things that you want to experience, like it's time to push. And it's okay, but it's not always sweet. And I don't want to sit here and like give that narrative. My perspective may have been sweet, but shit wasn't always sweet. Excuse my language.
Are there any projects coming up, that you're working on, thinking on, that you'd like to talk about?
There's something that's happening in my career right now where I spoke about I need to establish myself as the expert. And I'm not really big on social media. I am big, but when you look at my social media, I just show my work. I don't really show me. You don't see me on the beach, or you don't see me, I don't give much of my personal self, really just work. And so there's something happening in me putting out there that I need to establish myself as an expert. The universe is giving me more opportunities to creative direct and to set the tone for projects. So now I'm in talks with companies in creating campaigns for their brand. I just did some stuff with I'm helping many companies rebrand, and they're what's the word I'm looking for? And they are trusting me to help them create and rebrand and create their images.
Wonderful.
I'm also working with one of my biggest things that I'm super proud of is I recently got into the union. And in getting into the union, there can be, some people that gatekeep. They, if there are a few people of color, they want to be the people of color that you call on. But I got in 2 years ago. I got 3 people in last year. I'm working on getting 2 other people in this year. I'm making sure that my foot is in the door. And I'm bringing a lot of people along with me. And I've also been called to do a lot. I've never done fashion. And so I've been heading Fashion Week shows. They're trusting me and my team. Certain brands are like, we got to do, we won't name names, but been really blessed to watch the universe. So now I'm music, I'm fashion, I'm television, I'm film, I'm agency, and I'm hopefully what can come from behind the chair. I've also created a curriculum. I don't know if I told you about that.
No.
Yes, I have a curriculum now where it's a 12-chapter curriculum teaching and supporting people who want to do what I do.
Right.
As far as what you should have in your kit, how to problem solve on sets, understanding that hair and makeup, whether we want to admit it or not, we are the first line of defense. The actors come to us first. So how we set the stage or the tone, we can make or break the day for an actor. And just knowing the power that we have and being the very first person that they see. And so creating a 12-chapter curriculum, supporting people in doing what I do, but also once you finish the curriculum, I know that you've been trained in a way that I can send you out.
Right.
And I always get the call, Stacey, do you know somebody in LA? Do you know somebody in Atlanta? Do you know somebody in Maine?
Right.
And now I can say, yeah, I do. I do have someone who I know has been trained to move.
Right. And you know, because they've come through you, that you don't have to worry.
Exactly.
Because sometimes, you can recommend others and stuff happens.
Exactly.
So that is your intention behind S. Gray Unlimited?
Yes, agency and staffing.
Folks, this is Stacey Gray. I see you, Stacey. I hear you, and people would see you and hear you opening up about yourself, your life, which I'm very privileged to be able to be sitting with you. Really.
Thank you.
There's so much to you that needs to be seen on a and for that I'm glad that you've been able to, you sat with us first maybe first.
First.
And I can't wait to see the other things that happen in your life.
I'm thankful to you
Ah,
as well, because I didn't really realize the necessity of speaking about certain things. Just because I put it down and kept moving doesn't mean that it didn't have not only an impact on me, but it can have an impact on others. Right. So I thank you for seeing me and choosing me and allowing me to feel comfortable to talk about things that I've never really talked about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Cheese. And our OTC team, and to you, my audience. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. Please care to share, and remember, when you're on your beat, stay on the sunny, sunny side of the street safely. Be health conscious and kind to one another. And don't forget to give thanks for the little and big gifts as we strive for this beautiful life. Till the next.